I struggle not to sing and dance whenever that's playing. It's such an awesome little tune. So, hello everybody, how you doing out there? I'm Ali Kane, host of the Weekly Blaze, where we try to bring you updates from our own Blaze 3 ecosystem, where we are building awesome, fully decentralized protocols, and we'll look at the wider crypto ecosystem and just see what's going on out and about. So we're nearly 2 weeks into the launch of Blaze. The protocol has been running successfully for a couple of weeks. Lots of participants, few hundred holders, over 100 stakers. There's a lot going on, and tonight we're going to have a bit of a deep dive into Blaze, and the sort of potential for the reward pools to grow to, as I say, potentially millions of dollars. We're going to have a look and see if there is the potential for the reward pools to get there. One of the main aims of Blaze was within the Titan X ecosystem to bring it back, make Ethereum divs great again. You know, when we done the show last week, we were looking to see if the 8-day payout was going to happen. The first 8-day payout has happened, and we're getting close into the second 8-day payout, and those longer term 88-day, 288-day, 888-day reward pools are already filling up. So we're going to have a look at all that sort of stuff tonight. We're going to discuss it with one of the best guests we've ever had on the show, Maxim Broadcast. I first met Maxim in Jake Shark's mastermind, and he's always brought a lot of critical thinking to any investments that we've been discussing in the mastermind or just in spaces and things like that. So I'm very, very glad to have Maxim Broadcast back on the show again tonight. So Maxim, you want to come on up there?
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
It's great to see you again. Are you keeping well?
Yes. Yeah.
And how's
been an adventure as crypto is?
Yeah, how's everything going outside crypto at the minute? How's life outside crypto?
Good. Busy.
Busy, yeah.
But good.
Yeah. And how's crypto treating you at the minute?
Yeah, I feel like it's continuing, like I said a second ago, just to be an adventure. It is it's interesting to have theories and probabilities of what I think will happen over time, and then seeing what actually happens over time. But we're in a volatile, crazy market where things like fundamental value, outside of things like speculation, are very hard for me to be confident in. And so it lends itself to, I think, a lot of emotion, because it's hard to be attached to what is the real value of this. And it creates what we've been experiencing.
Funny you say you use the word emotion, and we're supposed to keep emotion out of investing, but it's for me it's certainly not possible. Do I jump rationally or irrationally into decisions? Most of the time I don't, but it doesn't mean that it's not affecting my emotions on a daily basis.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think with things like a lot of crypto, a lot of blockchain, if you don't have the fundamental value to turn to, what is it worth regardless of the current price? If you don't have that, what is left? Emotion. Like it's able to run within blockchain and coins and tokens as much as almost any investment that I'm aware of. And so to me, like you're saying, personal emotion is one thing to try to be aware of and intentional about, but also the awareness of the market emotion is an edge. If you can understand what people are feeling and what they're likely to do from that, I think that's probably valuable.
Well, one question before we start digging into things: do you know anything of the Richard Hart case? What any of that? Did you read any of the information that came out? I was trying to pick bits and pieces through it, but it doesn't look like there's really any further along. Did you see or understand anything that you could shed a bit of light on from what was released?
Oh yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm probably similar to the majority of people, and I've really appreciated, I think his name's Nuclear Herbs.
Yeah, I was reading through his post earlier. Yeah,
I love his stuff. He's so realistic, and you know,
You know,
it's
from
great.
the post today, I was so glad to see somebody just admitting that they get stuff wrong. He's like, "Yep,
Yeah,
I was wrong."
yeah. Well, I love it. It just makes me appreciate him more. And yeah, it was funny watching. Like, oh wait, they need to have the SEC needs to have their response turned in by essentially 12:01 Eastern time, and oh, nothing's posted. What does this mean? Is it over? But then no, it happened, just not
Yeah.
publicly. So that was a
No such luck
that
for
was
all
a
us
fun
old
twist.
school
Yeah.
wannabes.
So I don't think I know any alpha or insider information outside of what everyone else does.
Yeah.
So it seems like things are moving as more or less expected.
Yeah, and how do you feel about the overall kind of market at the minute? Is it doing what you expected? Are we kind of where we all expected to be in the cycle? Is it all kind of playing out as expected? With the dip and stuff last week, the Germans selling off Bitcoin, it kind of just played into the whole 4 year cycle narrative. Everything just kind of seems to be going the right direction. I did a Pulse Wars stream last week and was saying how I thought the bottom was in and it feels like everything's turning. And as soon as I said that, everything dumped again.
I know. Yeah, like I welcome FUD. Let's just have every bad thing happen.
Get it? Yeah,
Have all the fear,
yeah,
and then that'll just set us up for an upside. I feel like overall, zooming out, there's really nothing too surprising.
yeah,
There's been surprises for me, like there's what I thought was most likely, and then what actually happened, but nothing has happened that was outside of what I thought was possible.
yeah,
This
yeah.
still feels like crypto to me, and yeah, so overall so good. I feel it's interesting to me just looking at things a couple months ago, specifically things like Ethereum, where our price was roughly $1,000 higher than it is today. And at that time, I thought there was quite a bit of speculation when it came to things that I thought the market was considering bullish, like the actual Ethereum ETF. And it's interesting to me that price is that much lower. It's not 4,000 to 3,000. That's
Standard.
not a bear market or anything, but it is lower, and yet the certainty of the ETF is clearly higher. It's
Yeah.
interesting having a lower price with a more certain future. It'll be interesting to watch. Everyone, I think most people are extremely aware of this, but it'll be interesting to watch when that ETF comes. What does happen after that? And we'll see.
Well, I mean, the Bitcoin ETF wasn't really as exciting as we all thought it might have been, really, was it? So who knows what will happen? What about then? How's your feelings about the way Titan X is playing out at the minute? Without going into it too deeply, are we where you kind of thought we would be with Titan X, the whole ecosystem there?
Um, yes. So, I mean, I feel fine about Titan X overall. My current miners coming out I don't think I've claimed a miner that wasn't in profit yet, which is interesting because if you look at it just at the price chart, kind of reminds me of Zen.
You
you
must have,
you wouldn't necessarily predict that
yeah,
was
absolutely
possible.
not. Any of the ones that were still like I've claimed a few lately. I did, whenever the real hype kicked off, I got a bit greedy because my strategy was to do it all at the start and just let it play, put enough in at the start, let it play out. But like whenever we had this sort of second pump with all the start of the miners, I got greedy as well and went in more. And those are the ones that are all the negative that aren't in profit. But yeah, same thing, man. All the ones from the kind of very start are all still in profit, and it's nice to see that, considering, like you say, a downward chart.
Yeah, we'll see. Day 280 that I think we've been talking about almost since the very first day of the project is approaching, and that'll be interesting. See how that works out. I think one thing I like is that we have some reason to pay attention to the project after then, specifically Jake is coming out with more projects, and you guys have a project. There's a reason to pay attention after that massive inflation happens. So that's great, because I think it could be worse if everything came out, then we have inflation. If there's not a reason to look forward to an optimistic future, I think the market's opinion of the future has a ton to do with what the price today is. And so like if we have mass capitulation and then surprise to the upside, those green candles are more likely. We're at a lower market cap than compared to other. It gives a foundation for a potentially good future.
Yeah, it really does. And I think a lot of people are excited about that, and that's why a lot of people are still here, still paying attention, and the likes of us are still building. That we see that. We know Jake does have two protocols being built. Obviously, there's the shadow protocol, which is being bandied about. Nobody's really sure what it is. We've got X28. There's talk of Pulsar or Ouroboros. I think we've obviously launched Blaze a couple of weeks, and I think have you been paying attention to Mike Dean's spaces on Sundays? Do you listen to those?
I haven't.
Okay, so it's just we will be on there quite regularly, just chatting about things. But we're going to, I think we're going to be the only project that actually come out with something else before day 280. We kind of made a stand there, or an announcement last week that we were going to launch another protocol before day 280. And we're going to be on his stream, giving our community all the details of that this Sunday. So that's just something that what happened to us, Maxim? Blaze took a long time. It was a heavy learning curve for the 8 of us. There was a lot of not mistakes, but just it was, yourself. It's a heavy learning curve. You make a few wrong choices. You've got to go back to the drawing board. But part of the good thing about that was, with it being a longer drawn out process, we were able to make tweaks all along, see what the market did, kind of make changes that we thought were for the better. But also at that time, whenever things kind of slowed down, we were able to start working on other projects that would complement our own Blaze ecosystem. So that's kind of what we'll be announcing when it comes to Sunday. But let's have a little bit of a dig into Blaze. What is your first thoughts on how it's been running at the minute? What have you seen so far? Is there anything in it has excited you, or what's your general overall thought of how it's went since it launched?
Yeah. So one observation is that given the increase in supply, price to me has held relatively well. Like, you started with a liquidity pool, and then the daily auction started, but those tokens didn't actually come out till later. And essentially your increase in supply of Blaze tokens has come very quickly, but the price, in my opinion, has held relatively stable. And so that's interesting.
The first, okay. The first day, whenever we didn't get as much into the protocol as we would have hoped to on day one, I was having a complete meltdown. It was like, are we in a death spiral already on day one?
I love it. I love it. Well, like there is, one observation is there's a massive correlation in standard similar price charts for tokens. They so commonly spike and dump. Just, it seems like 99% of the time that's what happens for every token. And so that's just normal. But what I think there's sometimes advantages in starting slow. Like
I really agree with that.
Yes, you can create a scenario where there's a lot of hype. It's very common for there to be a ton of hype at the beginning of a project, and sometimes those first few people get in it, and then the chart goes up, they start bragging, it draws a lot of people in. But you can kind of sometimes basically maximize all the interest right at the beginning, and then after that you can set yourself up for down.
Yeah.
But if a project is like more stealth, there's not a lot of hype, you can start building that foundation, and then you can have surprise later, which I think sometimes is it lends itself to a better overall project. And I think it's interesting that you guys launched when you did relative to Titan X and also relative to the market. It's possible that the lack of interest in Titan X, the lack of interest in the market works to some green candles later in time. And that'll be really cool to see. Like,
yeah, I mean,
we'll see.
obviously time will tell on that one, but that's kind of what we're planning, kind of what we were hoping. But yes, I think part of the reason that the price is holding up is because you think of the first few days here, the amount of extra supply coming onto the market is a large percentage of what currently exists. But my opinion on it at the minute is that people that are participating, not everybody, but a lot of people that are participating want to keep the tokens that they're getting. I think there is, although there's a lot coming on the market each day, the 8,000 each day, there's still with that as a relative scarcity within them. People wanting to get them, to stake them, to have a choice in what they can do with them, behold them to see if the market does start pumping. But yeah, I think that's part of the reason the price has held up as well as it has, is that one, people want to hold the tokens, and that there is already a lot of supply staked. Obviously 53%, I think it sits at the minute. And I can't tell. In fact, there is a post there. There's a guy, is it DeFi 369? I'll have to pull his tweet up, but there's a lot of supply already staked out quite far into the distance as well. There's three people already holding a diamond hand ticket. So they've got 4,000 tokens max staked, staked for 8 years. That's 12,000 of the tokens already gone there. 17,000 have been bought and burned by the buy and burn. So there is, even though there's that supply coming out, there's a relative scarcity of it. So that's maybe part of the reason why the price has held up so well.
Yes, I agree.
Anything else you've noticed, or anything in particular that's caught your eye?
I just noticed, I believe that there is a Dune, I think, for Blaze, which I think can be an advantage. I think in these kind of protocols and these games, there can be an advantage in doing what other people don't. So the more access you have to knowing what other people are doing, sometimes that can highlight opportunities. So I think Dune gives that ability, and it's cool to see.
Yeah, there's one of the guys in the Telegram was in asking questions today about all the different functions in the contracts. I think he one of our own team, Scott's building, is working on Dune Analytics. We've got this community member having a look at it now. And that's the guy there, DeFi Prosperity 369. I'm trying to find his post. He's obviously pulling data. I don't know whether he's maybe pulling it directly off Etherscan or let me see, where is it? I'm just sorry. Forgive me, I'm just trying to find. He had a really interesting stats. Yeah. There are currently 99 Blaze stakers earning ETH rewards, 54,000 Blaze tokens, or 51% staked. There's 4,000 Blaze tokens staked by three wallets. Between 3,000 and 4,000, there's another two wallets. But even under, I think he's given a lot of data. Even 1,500 to 2,000, 4 wallets. And then you go all the way down 500 to 1,000, there's 10 wallets, and then under 500 Blaze tokens, 72 wallets. So if there are only, if that's an indication, if there's 200 holders, there's 100. He's just commented that he's pulling it directly off Etherscan. There's 200 holders, 100 stakers, and you can see that there's even 72 wallets, or under 500. There's a lot being pulled off the market, which is exactly what we wanted. Now, have we made Ethereum devs great again? It's the question. I think the reward pools are kind of what people are chasing. Have you had any thoughts on that? Have you had a look at the pools, or what's your thoughts on the reward pools?
So, yeah, I do. I feel, like I said earlier, it's a heuristic. It's not always true, but in these things, in these kind of protocols, there's often an advantage in considering doing what everyone else doesn't do. So, if everyone goes for the stake payouts, the stake payouts are probably going to give less for whatever you staked. And then it can give room for the price to go up, and the vice versa. If people are holding their token because they want a price increase, well, then the stake pools have more of an advantage. It's interesting hearing just that it's so closely. It sounds like roughly 50% of supply is staked and 50% is liquid. Well, there's that's interesting. I was just looking at that. I was just using the Etherscan, looking at the stake wallet, essentially, stake contract, and what percentage of tokens are in there. That is an interesting market approach. It suggests that people are like, well, maybe stake payout, maybe price. Overall, the average or whatever of the market is valuing each equally, which is a very conservative and safe possible approach to this.
Well, on day 7, the highest it hit at day 7 was 73%. Then that obviously dropped as soon as it ticked over. That dropped down to, I think it was about 62% whenever those other 8,000 tokens come out. So we're on day 14. So we've got day 14, day 15. We kind of only got another, maybe 36 hours, maybe a bit longer than that until we tick over. So we kind of expect people to come rushing in again. Me, I've been participating in the auctions myself, and the tokens that I've bought or that I've acquired through the auctions, I haven't staked them yet this week, so my percentage will be getting added in again. Another stat that I think it was 36% ROI I got from the first Ethereum paid on the amount, on the value that I bought and auction tokens for in those first days. I got about 36% return in that first 8-day payout. And I think just looking at before that amount will obviously get diluted, I think, come the next payout, the next day 17. And it'll be interesting to see what that figure is, if it adds. I'm hoping that it'll maybe, even if I didn't add to it, it'll probably be about 50% return within the first two 8-day payouts. So it's, for me, obviously, as a founder and a participant, it is very exciting to watch. And I'm trying to help the protocol by staking, trying to help the protocol with my supply of getting them off the market. Do you think that if you've got a balance, you've got a balance of 50% staked, 50% liquid, have you noticed the difference between people, the fact that the market, the auction price has nearly come in line with the market price each week? Have you noticed that, or each day?
I mean, it suggests that at least some people are paying attention, and it makes sense that you would, because it's a very quick arbitrage opportunity.
Yeah. Yesterday was the first day that the auctioneers got a 17% gain ROI on above the market buy price yesterday. That was the first time I think that it had actually stayed above zero. It was closing right down to zero every single day. So yeah, like you say, people are paying attention and just kind of watching, and that's why I think people do want to get their hands on supply.
Yep. Yeah. Well, it's an interesting mechanic. It, I think, helps draw in interest, because there is a short-term potential money-making play for the people to pay attention, and that can be good also. Like, attention is a huge part of a project doing well. If people need to know about it, need to keep coming back, and you have that incentive automatically built in, so that's cool.
Yeah, so this is where the reward, it's the next 8-day payout has got 32,000. Now we're hoping that will maybe get up over 40 grand again for the next 8-day payout. But look at it's kind of, we've built this to try and add longevity to the project, Maxim. Yep. And we'll be looking at that 88. We're only, to say, not even 14 full days in, and there's already 70 grand in that 88-day payout pool. It's racking up pretty quickly, considering the amount of participation so far. I think off the top of my head, I'm going to say we've pulled in around $500,000 so far through the auctions, something like that, not too far off it. And then that day 288 is a long way away, and there's already $60,000 of Ethereum, with Ethereum at the current value that it's at. So when the market starts turning, is that where, you're talking about that intrinsic value? Does it, do these reward pools and the potential for them to be put out in the distance, does that add the kind of value to this protocol long term? Do you see it in that way, or what's your thoughts on that?
I think stake payout pools like this are really interesting because they do add a relatively objective fundamental value. Like, essentially, there is a minimum price every 8 day that the Blaze tokens can, if they break below it, you can be profitable by just staking those tokens, and it sets a minimum price. So that's really interesting. On the flip side, I think there can be a downside to that, which is for the price to just go massively euphoric or whatever, the market will need to detach from that fundamental value, because you've tied a potential fundamental value to the Blaze token. And so if you want to go past that, sometimes it's harder because there is something to tie that price to. So it's a catch-22 in a way. So the market will decide. And it's interesting because we do have a similar project in our past called TitanX. And TitanX got, in my opinion, specifically in December, really euphoric and very optimistic about the future. And so it can happen. It can definitely happen. You can have some pretty good price increases. Yeah, it's cool. I think yeah, I mean, right now you can imply it's just the beginning, but we have a theoretical minimum market cap, like a high probability of a minimum market cap right now, in our future.
Yeah, there's a few kind of, we've been looking at the reward pools, and kind of we're coming up with these, crazy ideas that there could, within, but months of the project, there could be potentially millions of dollars leading, the potential for millions of dollars to be in the reward pools. Obviously, there's a lot of work on our part. We've got to keep market and got to keep enticing people into the protocol. We're going to try and build stuff to keep the protocol fresh, and to keep new things happening within the community, keep the eyeballs on it, and then just always trying to feed back into to this Blaze protocol. So we've got a lot of things in the pipeline. But yeah, I mean, with a 288-day payout pool, that could potentially be somewhere around a nice time in the bull run. Possibly, if Ethereum goes on to, maybe get up around $10,000 or beyond, if it got to 12 plus, you're looking at just even the value of Ethereum in the pools being 4 times what that is at the minute. When it's $60,000 in day 288 pool after 14 days, there is a lot of potential for that to grow pretty big. Do you think that's right or wrong, or do you have any opinion on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, if Ethereum goes up, that's essentially external economic value that you automatically benefit from. You can capture ETH in theory, when it's low, and if ETH goes up, automatically dollar value associated with your protocol goes up as well. So, and that's another advantage to do it now. When I don't know when the bottom of ETH short term is in, but we're lower than we were. And it's not a bad time to be collecting ETH, I think. So that probabilistically seems like a good play.
And then, well, on the flip side of that, or in coherence with that, I mean, if the Titan X ecosystem starts to pump crazily, would you see that the potential for Blaze to get dragged up with it? Obviously, our liquidity pools is all with Titan X. Where a lot of eyeballs come on to Titan X within the bull run, or when the price starts pumping. I would imagine that the Blaze project will catch people's eye. And in the corner of their eye, they'll see the little Blaze fire, ticking away over on the other side. So do you see a potential for us to go up with Titan X if it starts to pump?
Yeah, I think it's going to be good for Blaze if the people that are participating in it have more funds. I mean, so if whatever ecosystems those people are in,
does anybody have any funds now?
I know. funds? What are funds? Yeah, exactly. So it's hard for me to see how it's going to be directly hurtful. I do notice that it's really common for there to be a rotation, especially within an ecosystem, from one project to start pumping. It tends to draw in more attention. People chase the green candles at the same time they could be selling something else within that ecosystem. And then eventually there's a kind of rotation from one to the other.
Yeah.
And so I
actually hadn't thought about that.
It wouldn't surprise me if Blaze experiences something like that. Whether Blaze is the first runner that gets the attention, and then, you know, some other project later gets attention, and it somewhat cycles focus and energy and candles out of Blaze into something else. But that is very, very common. And so I would not be surprised to see some kind of, you know, back and forth going on within Titan X and Blaze and Hyper and the projects that are there.
Yeah, another exciting thing is we're actually having Jake on the show next week. Jake's our guest next week, so it'll be really interesting to see, because I don't think he's done a stream in quite some time. He wanted to let us get Blaze out, get everything running, you know, because of the fully decentralized nature of it. He wanted to make sure, even he wanted to make, and he knows us all well, but he wanted to make sure that everything was working, that that everything did what it was supposed to do. But he's been very quiet about all the things that he's building, and I think purposely, probably so. I think, like everybody, you know, a lot of founders just want to see the max pain point hit, and then they can come back in a blaze of glory. So it'll be interesting to see what he comes back on and says next week, what thoughts he has, and maybe even if he gives us some interesting information about what he is actually doing. But it'll be interesting to get his thoughts on Blaze and how it's been playing out. So look, have you have participated a little bit in Blaze? Did you auction? Did you market buy? What way did you see fit to first participate?
I have only participated in the auctions. And yeah,
last minute, or just randomly throughout the day?
I honestly didn't wait till last minute, and I just, when I was looking at it, basically DCA'd in.
The first day, sorry, the first few days, there was no rush at the end. I mean, maybe that was because of that first 3-day lockup, but the first 3 days, there was no rush at the end. So that kind of makes sense. But what we do notice is that there is a last minute rush. Every day, there is definitely that last minute rush to close that ROI. And people just, maybe, for me, you're nearly better off, and you can give me your opinion on this, but if depending on your amount, you're nearly better off just going in at the start and forgetting about it, you know, because if you're going at the start, you're going to get the ROI that's there at the end regardless. So, you know, maybe the people at the end are just hoping that they're the ones that catch that, or are they helping the system and closing the value down and getting their tokens at market value and intentionally trying to help the system?
I think somebody has more control. Wait until the end. Like, you have, in theory, more of a known.
That's true.
So that's a potential advantage. I think, I'm not sure exactly what time it ends for me, but it appears that it's late, and it's just like, I'm gonna just dollar cost average in, so I don't care too much, you know, what exactly happens at the end. I think, you know, worst case is probably gonna roughly meet the current market price.
Yeah, so somebody in the chat there is saying, you know, obviously going through the auctions, you avoid the slippage. The liquidity pool, you know, what is there, $70,000 liquidity? Sorry, say yeah, $69,000 liquidity. So somebody coming in trying to acquire, you know, maybe 1,000 tokens or even 500 tokens in a day, they do eat a lot of slippage. So that is, maybe there's a lot of people coming in with, you know, 2 ETH at a time, you know, 1 ETH during the day, another ETH later on in the day. Then that's, you know, it's a lot of value coming in. Whenever some of those days, if there's been $40,000 in, $30,000, people coming in will be $6,000, $7,000. They're looking to get a lot of that value, and they're certainly not, you know, you certainly would get hit pretty hard with slippage trying to buy that amount on the market.
Right. Yep.
So whenever you get your tokens, what did you do with them? Did you stake them? Did you sell them? What was your plan
I
there?
like the idea of staking them. I thought it was interesting that you guys chose, I believe, 88 days as a minimum stake, which is cool because that actually makes it harder for me to be like, oh, that's a little, that's more than a month. That's more than Titan So you really got to be able to give up on them, and I don't pretend to know what's going to happen to Blaze in the next 88 days exactly.
Yeah, at all.
So for me, I have just held mine. And
Interesting.
what that is essentially suggesting is that I'd rather bet on price increase than getting ETH back. Right?
It's funny. I'm really glad to hear you say that because everything I get, I stake it.
Yeah, So
But
yeah.
how many times have we in certain ecosystems, Hex, Zen, even Titan to a certain extent? You've been all right with the Titan miners, but there's been many times in the past where, or even if you participate in an ICO where you get your coins locked up for a certain amount of time, and you have to face that pain of watching things dip while your coins are all locked up, and during that time everybody else can make money and you can't. And yes, you're getting the rewards, but there's always that flip side. One that stands out to me was the Thank You Richard Hart ecosystem. Whenever they kicked off, I'm not sure what the minimum staking period was there, but a lot of people locked their coins up for the initial, and that price ran up crazy. There was one of the guys in the mastermind, and I actually did a video on it because I was so hurt at the time that this person had made so much money, and I hadn't by not participating. And that was one of the emotional days, just coping with somebody else making so much money. But yeah, like it was like $1,000 turned into nearly 70 grand, but they never mentioned that the coins were locked up. So they never, by the time the coins unlocked, that 70 grand was maybe back down at 15, something like that. So
I feel like these ecosystems, Titan X, even Hex, like I think there's a high probability that a lot of people have experienced locking their tokens up, with Hex, and just be staking your Hex at a time when it's like, oh no. I would love to take advantage of this price, but I am staked. So yeah, it has, but that isn't a part why there's an incentive to stake, is it enables, it pulls supply off the market, and in part, at least in theory, the reason the price is able to run as much as it is because there's people can't sell. So
yes. Again, and that's part. I think that's part of the little sticky part with having that 888-day pool, and such a large percentage going to that it's not, that is a big incentive for people to, because you do have to put quite a lot of supply off the market for quite a lot of time, and I don't think there will be too many people do it. Again, who knows? If the price does run, getting your hands on 4,000 Blaze could be a very, very difficult thing to do. And if you put that much value into it, to say that you're going to lock them away for 8 years is a very big commitment. I don't think I've had anything in my life for 8 years. Never mind a Blaze stick.
Especially in crypto, that's an eternity.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I like that dynamic as well. There's that temptation there to be like, oh, I could get a little more, or I want to get that number.
Yeah, part of me wants to just have that, kind of acquire that, get that, and just do it and forget about it and see what happens.
Yeah.
We shall see.
So I'm curious if you have any more info on your other projects.
Ooh, well, obviously we've got the Blaze. So Titan Wars was originally going to be a fork of Pulse Wars built using Titan X with a big prize pool. That changed. This is part of the thing I was talking about with the beauty of being able to watch what the market does, watch what happened within the ecosystem. So we've got, the name of the next project is called Inferno, but nobody knows what it is yet. We just dropped the Telegram in the chat today, and I think there's over 100 people already in the Telegram. So it's an inferno, and it's heating up, boy. It's heating up.
Okay. Well, then I'm not too behind because that's all I know is Inferno, and I'm in the Telegram, but I don't know anything else about it. So
Now, so Blaze Wars was always supposed, Titan Wars turned into Blaze Wars, and we actually produced a white paper, and we actually pulled it back down because, again, there's, when you see the way the market's playing out, things are tweaking, and we
yes.
seen an opportunity. As I say, we were building a few different things while Blaze was being built, and now we've been the Inferno protocol. It'll be fully decentralized. That's our aim with Blaze 3 is to launch these fully decentralized protocols. But we are releasing the white paper on Sunday, so we're moving pretty quick. And the white paper will be released on Sunday, and we're actually going to go through it, a bit of a deep dive on Plan A and Mike Dean's space on this Sunday. So
okay, I might have misunderstood. Which white paper is being released on Sunday?
The Inferno one.
Inferno. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. And then Blaze Wars will be a little bit later down the line. And that's not an NFT game anymore. It is a protocol that will make use of the NFTs, but it won't be the game like Pulse Wars. So
all right. Okay.
Cool. I'm
Cool.
telling you, and people say this all the time. We're only getting started. I've experienced teams build shit upon shit. I'm surprised that really happily surprised by what the likes of Steve DeFi and Bad Sports are coming up with to help fuel our own ecosystem. They've done some great jobs, not just with Blaze, but the next things that we've doing. And like I say, we've seen Hyper coming out. We'll see what Hyper does, but it didn't do what we expected it to do. And if our protocols do what we expect to do, we hope that it really will help our little Blaze ecosystem within Titan X. So yeah, the Sunday Spaces is going to be pretty exciting, where we get to talk about another project that we've got ready. And again, it's going to launch. It will be launched before day 280. We just want to throw that spanner in the works for everybody before we get to that point. So exciting times.
Awesome. So how does it feel for you as a part of the team right now?
I'm loving it. Okay.
Awesome.
Did we expect millions of dollars to come into the protocol in the first few days? Yes, we did. And I experienced the exact same thing with Pulse Wars. I was expecting to sell thousands and thousands of NFTs where I only sold hundreds, and that hit me hard in the gut. You talk about emotion. That was honestly, man, that was one of the hardest. I've been in business. I've got 4 kids. I've been in business for 25 years. And that night when that NFT launch was one of the hardest shots that I've took personally in my life. It took me about a week. It took me about a week just to regroup. I expected there was a possibility to sell all the NFTs out, at least sell a third of them, and I sold like a 22th of them. If that makes sense. It was so soul destroying, and it was hard for me to pick myself back up off the ground. And obviously it did. That's my character, is to do that, just get up and get back at it. But boy, that hit hard. So I did not let myself get too optimistic about Blaze, because I did not want to experience that again. So I still had the hope that we could bring in a few $1 million in a day, and it would kick off to this glorious, massive, amazing start. But like you say, part of me is kind of glad that it didn't, because now we have a solid foundation to grow from. I really do think hope that the price can kind of trend across maybe for another week or two. If it goes up, happy days. But as a founder, I'm really happy with the fact that what we built works to a T. The fact that we have a community that seemed to be dedicated quite early on here. We've got a really solid foundation to grow on. And yeah, I mean, as a founder, I couldn't be happier. Have we made a load of money out of it yet? No, but I'm really happy with how everything is going, and I'm excited for the future of our own little Blaze ecosystem and what we're doing.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool just to hear your experience that way. And it would be cool, like the fact that you have more things in the future, I think only helps you. It'll be cool because you have essentially potential value adds.
Okay,
And go ahead.
Let me throw something in the mix quickly, because this is
Okay.
the thing I'm talking about. What I've seen before, and what's always pissed me off, is
Yes.
whenever you got a founders that build a project and they launch another project, and it doesn't really do anything with the previous one, and you constantly
Yes.
have to take money from here, put more money over here. Now I've got to start selling this to get in over here, and it just goes
Yes.
on and on and on. So what we're building doesn't do that. Yet it will pull. We're aiming to pull different money from different places to feed back into their own ecosystem.
Good.
Whether it works, who knows? But that's part of the
Well,
plan.
that's good, because if nothing else, I think that builds trust. Like if people feel that you're not going to leave the project or start focusing on whatever founder shiny object there is.
Somebody in the chat saying not mentioning any names.
Exactly. Like I think we know we know what you're talking about. Yes, exactly. I think that's another cool thing. That's good to hear you say that.
Well, we really have tried to, obviously we're building the standard, trying to build things fully decentralized, that once we launch them, we don't have any control. We can only participate to help, and try to help the system while participating, or building more that will benefit it. That's kind of it. It helps to feed the system, to feed the community. So it's been, and then the trust thing. That's why we're doing the shows, Maxim. We want to be out talking every week and available for people to see us, hit us with questions, and be there whenever people are, if people do start to have concerns, or they've got real deep questions that they need answered. We're here out in front of them all the time. Trust is a massive thing.
I also like how you're saying that you're adjusting based on how things have gone and feedback from the market. That can be a really good sign too. I think there's something to be said for having a goal and sticking to that. But if you're paying attention and learning along the way, that's cool. So I'm curious to.
I think having the weekly blaze keeps us in check, chatting to people like yourself, but also having 8 founders in the chat all the time. There's 8 opinions there, always 8 opinions, and they're always very different, and we always kind of come to some middle ground that makes sense to everybody.
Well, that's impressive, in my opinion. 8 founders. That is, in my experience, that's very difficult. And the fact that you guys can stay positive and not implode or something,
well, that's early days.
that speaks to you guys. That's not normal in my experience. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's been pretty. We haven't had too many tough moments at all. It's been pretty diplomatic, and everybody's kind of got stuck in. We had one moment of maybe a few months ago, maybe that things got a bit hairy. Everybody had to say a few words to each other, but it was all dealt with and getting everything out in the open. So yeah, no, it's
really
been
cool.
It's been great. It's been great. People pick up the pace whenever you've kind of worked a little bit too hard and need to take a day off. Somebody else will pick up the mantle and take over for you. Which is it's been a massive help, and you know that they're going to do it right as well. There's no, you're not paying somebody to do it. You're not, it's not like you're telling somebody. Everybody's kind of just steps up and does their part. So look, we're kind of approaching the hour mark. Have you anything else you want to ask about Blaze? Anything else you want to talk about Blaze, or anything else at all you want to bring up?
I'm curious to watch this project. I'm curious to see what comes out on Sunday. I mean, yeah, it's, to me, it's been a good launch. This particular project has an interesting future. So I'm excited to watch and see how it plays out.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, no, it will be good to see. So many moving parts. It'll be interesting to say the least. So I want to tell you something. It's kind of funny that you're on the show again. Okay, because I want to tell you something. No, I do consider myself, and I'm not a spiritual man or a religious man, but I do consider myself to, you get back in your life what you put out. And another one of the hardest times in my life, I actually read a comment that you made. You don't even know about this, but you made a comment. Okay, so before Christmas, the night before, the day before my son was born, he got diagnosed with Down syndrome. Okay.
Oh my.
Yeah. So that was the day before he was born. He got diagnosed with Down syndrome. And you can imagine me driving home from the hospital that night. My wife was in the hospital, and I was devastated driving home, you know, crying my eyes out, not because of the Down syndrome thing, that's perfectly fine, but just for the fear of what would come in life. Okay.
Yeah.
And whenever I got home, I was sitting in the sofa crying my eyes out, trying to deal with all these problems. And I was in reading Jake's Telegram chat, and there was a comment that you had made that night or that day, and it said that it was that Ali is like a ray of sunshine, and he brings positivity everywhere he goes. And seeing that moment, me reading that comment, it changed my perspective like that. I was going, do you know what? He's right. I do, and everything's going to be okay. And you didn't even know that was a profound moment in my life. And that just reading that comment that you'd made out of nothing affected me so much. So I got up and I went for a run. I went for a jog. I kind of was like, right, okay, everything's going to be okay. I gotta go for a jog. And while I was jogging down the road, some random dude came up to me, stopped me and says, keep it going, mate. You're doing great. Just some stranger out of the blue. I know. And then as I went on past, the song, I don't know if there's like a song from the 80s, Something Inside So Strong. I know that I can make it, though you're doing me wrong, so wrong. That came on the fucking headphones. So I'm running down the road going, holy shit, this is one of the worst days of my life, but everything is fucking in my life is telling me that everything is going to be fine. So the next day, again, like you didn't even know about this, man. It's kind of crazy that you're on. But the next day, he got rushed into hospital, like for a last minute. I didn't know this at the time, but he got rushed into hospital. They told us that he might not survive the birth. But I still, man, see, after the night before, I knew everything was going to be fine. He was born 8 weeks early. He was less than 3 pounds when he was born. And that's maybe 8 months ago, 7 months ago now. And he is absolutely thriving and doing brilliant. So the reason I'm telling that story is that just to let you know that, and to let everybody know that, you know, you do, for me, you get back what you put out into the world. And I do put positivity out. And the fact that I do that, you mentioned it in a group chat at the worst, one of the worst times in my life. And just reading that comment went, you know what? Karma, I will be fine. My little son will be fine. Everything will be fine. And it is. So just wanted to let you know that.
Wow. That's an amazing story. And that's really encouraging to me. So thanks for sharing that back. That's really cool.
Just a little bit, you know, just by saying something small, something positive, nice to people, you do not know the effect that it can have on them at that moment in time. So thank you for saying that day, because it was honestly a very, very difficult time. And to read that comment at that time changed the thoughts in my head right then. So thanks very much for that.
Wow. Thanks, Ali.
I actually wrote it down. I wrote it all down in a little book at the time because it was so important to me. And it's just, as I say, it's just mad that you're back on the show. And I just really wanted to make sure I told you about it.
Wow. Thanks. That's really cool. I had no idea. And yeah, for what it's worth, I try really hard not to give out comments in general that I don't believe. So yeah, I totally stand behind that. And I if I remember right, I think the group backed me up. They were like, yes.
I don't think when I read that, I think that was it. I think that was me off. Right. Let's fucking it's gonna be all right. And away I went. So yeah.
Wow, that's a really cool story.
Yeah, all right. So sorry for boring everybody with that one, but I just had to get that one out. So look, thanks very much for coming on the show, Maxim. Always a pleasure to have you on. Always a pleasure to have a chat. And yeah, good luck with whatever you're doing. And yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Good to be here.
All right, take it easy, man.
See you guys.
Well, there's Josh. Josh is actually probably not even at the computer